Hello and welcome back to Slim Bits. This one is for the 10th episode of Killroy. The coolest thing about this episode, I feel, is that it is the debut episode of two prominent actors who would go on to play pretty important roles throughout the Killroy series. The first being Brian, who brilliantly voices the mayor, and it's also the first time that Jim is in a cartoon. And he would later go on to voice Superhero, who played a substantial role in later episodes. But until then, he makes his debut in the Killroy series, voicing the villainous Killjoy. So I want to talk a little bit about Jim's involvement. So Killjoy is Killroy's evil doppelganger. He has like a similar appearance to them, a similar set of skills, with some minor differences. Whereas Killroy has short hair, smokes a cigarette, and has a black shirt and a white jacket, and can't be violent in front of kids. Killjoy has longer hair, smokes a pipe, has a white shirt, a darker jacket, and he prefers to be violent in front of kids. Which is a concept that I, didn't use as much in Killroy. I didn't want to, expose kids to that kind of danger all the time. But, I think it was one of those important things for me to bring back every once in a while. But anyways, that concept of the evil double is something that is done a lot in comic book superheroes. Whether it's Bizarro Superman or Reverse Flash or Sinestro or even Venom against Spider-Man to an extent. There just seems to be something about comic book heroes having one villain that is very similar to them in appearance and abilities, and I think I even have a little wisecrack about that later in the episode. Anyways, so when I wanted to have a character like that, I thought it'd be good to have that character voiced by me. Seeing as they're already similar enough, I may as well just do a different take on Killroy's voice. But that was before I met my friend Jim. I met Jim a couple of years ago when we worked together at a mobile game studio, and he was just one of those guys that he and I clicked right away. In addition to having similar taste in movies and TV shows, and having a lot of the same creative influences, and having our own creative outlets outside of work, he also is very knowledgeable in comic book superheroes. So the fact that he and I have so many similar tastes and are pretty similar in general. I mean, in real life he's a foot taller than I am, but whatever. I got a character who's basically another Killroy. Let's get the guy who's basically another me to voice him. Okay, and so the other character introduced in this is the mayor. And how that came about was my friend Dee, who is a mutual friend of mine and Brian's, who voices the mayor. I mentioned to her that I wanted to start casting more roles, and she said, "Oh, well, Brian has always wanted to do a voice for you." And I, having known Brian for years, he never told me that before, and I never even considered him once for it. So I asked him to read for the mayor, who was this, throwaway character, and he came forward with this brilliant, dim-witted, version of Marvin the Martian kind of voice for this mayor, and I loved it. And I loved it so much, I expanded the role in the episode. And I knew I wanted to bring that character back. It was such a goofy take on a character that I never would have thought. And so the mayor is so prominent in later episodes and given such a wealth of good material based purely on Brian's performance at it. He totally made that character his own. I love writing for the mayor. You can just go so broad with that lovable idiot. I guess the best way to look at the mayor of Gritty City is that nobody really likes him, but he is so blissfully unaware at how bad he is at his job. He doesn't really care. He thinks he's doing a great job. He is just happy as a clam. The entire city is in disarray. And a lot of that is because of the mayor and his boneheaded policies. But he's not corrupt and he's not malicious. He's just an idiot. And that is, having those two guys bring they both brought something vital to the rest of the Killroy series. Brian, of course, brought the mayor character who, is just such a wellspring of comedy. And Jim brought a knowledge of comic book superheroes. Him also being a fan of the comedic takes of superheroes, be it the Tick and the Adam West Batman series, as well as the more serious stuff so that I could say to him, like, here's what I want from this character, and he would instantly get it. So having those two guys involved in the series now kind of gave me the confidence to decide we can go in so many more avenues with the comedy and with the superhero and sci-fi aspects of the series. Because let's face it, a lot of the Killroy episodes up until this point were mainly cops and robber stories, with just like a little bit of flirting with him going up against villains with actual powers. And those episodes were great. But now we had the option to explore new avenues as far as outlandish characters and new situations and, crazy comedy and really broad story ideas that I just really didn't feel like I could get away with before. But now having a anything-goes buffoonish city official character at my disposal, as well as another comic book nerd to bounce ideas off of, I felt like, you know what, I think I got some extra ingredients here for some interesting and pretty funny stories. Anyways, I think that's all I have to say on this episode. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next Slim Bits. Bye.